It says I'm live. I never trust that until I actually uh, give it a few seconds, folks. Get me centered here. Got all my various um, things that I have to present to you tonight. It's really good to see Storm Cop. All right, it's good to see you, James, in the chat. Of course, it's good to see Christian, who's been keeping everybody busy in the chat as usual. Wonderful, wonderful members of the channel here. We've got Irgesplitten Loudenboomer in, and I'm going to be going over some things. That you guys have presented the channel as well tonight. I'm just giving, time to get on in, and then I'll get on down to my intro. Ben Scheidegger, good Lord. Dr. Insomnia was in earlier. Deuce is Wild is in. Oh, good Lord. The usual suspect, right, darling?
That's right, man.
She recognizes each and every one of you. Now, if you just kind of bumped into this stream, like, who's this guy? My name is Michael Noland. This is The Bottom Line, but tonight, this is Tribal number 46, where we ask the question, where we dare to compare what made Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple heavy rock's big three, or better yet, heavy rock's holy trinity, Batman. All right. And if you ever doubted that, take a look at my latest poll, and you will see that what we've got going now is like an 88% of you voting for the lineup that I just mentioned as the true holy trinity of rock and roll. The rest, the other three options, pale in comparison. All right. So I encourage you to take a look at that poll. It's still going on. You can vote for it. Anything you want to do with it. But what were the similarities in these bands, and what were the differences between them? Who wrote their material? And when they did write, how did the bands go about writing it? And how were they as musicians, right? I mean, these are three completely different bands. And between them, finally, how would you rank them? And I'll give my ranking at the end of the presentation I have for here tonight. And Kimberly, be on the lookout for any rankings. You know, just put a one as your number one choice, number two, number three. And you can give your rankings, and I'll try and get to as many of you as I possibly can. But first, I did want to bring out a couple of super thanks that we've already received. First and foremost, because he beat y'all to the punch and not even on this stream, folks. He just came in. Yeah, I didn't get a photo on that, but it was Joseph Blue. All right. Now, Joseph Blue gave me a super thanks on my new video. It doesn't have me in it. It just gives you some famous rockers that have passed away so far in 2025. Now, the video, I usually do these twice a year. And part of the problem was by the time I got to my video earlier in the year, there were already some rockers that had already passed away. I did not include that in those rockers in this one. And then when I do my end of the year one, I will probably do a collage of that earlier video that had those rockers, as well as a collage of this video and, sadly, anybody else we may be missing by the end of the year. It does seem like they are just dropping like flies at points. It just absolutely stunning. And in that video, the very last, I told you guys I like good pop, and Bobby Sherman passed away. And I liked his records. He was a likable actor, you know. I remember I loved that record, Julie, 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 Do You Love Me, and all of that. So he was included, as well as the passing of the Bad Company's, guitarist Mick Ralphs. Okay, so I want to thank Joseph Blue for his $2 super thanks. I want to thank Ben Scheidecker, who just before I got on the air gave us a super thanks. He says, I'm excited for this topic tonight. Hashtag we are the tribe. And of course, followed by that, Irgerschlitten Laudenboomer with another $2 super thanks. You know, we should kind of think of a thing to say about those $2 super thanks. Anyway, he goes on to say here, the power of the deuce. You know what? I think translated to English, that means the power of two. You'll hear me say that often, won't you, folks? Now, the reason I say that is because we get from time to time some very handsome super things, and I'll tell you, the folks that are able to do that, they'd be the first one to tell you. They don't do it for attention. They are just supporting this channel as much as they can. They'd be the first to tell you that the power of two works on this channel because they do add up. And of course, there's those who can give a little bit more and a little bit more, and those who can give quite handsomely. And Kimberly and I always are appreciative of that. But primarily, and all these folks that I'm going to mention here would be able to say the very same thing. It's the community that I really cherish, you, the viewer, whether you give a damn thing or not. All right. It's what we got going here where we can discuss live classic rock and some of its elements and attacking this. I told you we'd be talking about Led Zeppelin. Well, this is kind of part two to the Led Zeppelin stream I did, but it is equally about Deep Purple and Black Sabbath. All right. So now, before we get going, people are still trickling in, and then I'll get right to it. This will only take a moment, folks. I always shout out those who gave us super thanks in the last stream. Okay. These are just for the last stream. And I can go through this list real quick and we'll get right down to matters here. Deuces Wild was in, first of all, with a $20 super thanks, and he followed it with the power of two for a total of $22 before we barely got started. Big Boy Oz.
Deuce just came in with a super.
Oh my goodness, and the power of two. I'll get right with you, Deuce. But I was just reading about you. Were your ears burning, brother? Big Boy Oz came in with a $5 super thanks. Jimbo came in with a $5 super thanks. Both of these are from Down Under, one from New Zealand, the other, I believe, from Australia. Hey, man, we have a worldwide audience. Thank you so much. Rockin' Robin Bird, the divine Miss Rockin' Robin Bird, or Ms. Rockin' Robin Bird, $3. Told you that number's starting to be her number. Michael Boswell, $2. Another power of the two. And John Foster with a $5 super thanks. That was followed by Michael Boswell, a man who speaks his mind whether he agrees with me or not, and still supports this channel financially with a $10 super thanks. Ben Scheidecker followed him with a $10 super thanks, and then followed that up with a power of two. The divine, we have more than one divine tribal member, don't we, folks? The divine Agent Pepsi one with a past, as we have discovered, came in with a $5 super thanks. Thank you, darling. And David L. with a $30 super thanks. Brother, thank you. And by the way, you were the one that said, here, get a racket. I'll show you what I bought with your wonderful gift. All right. You specifically said it was for that purpose. And I think you'll approve. I hope you will. I'm happy. Anyway, thank you so much because you bought me a racket. All right. And of course, Rockin' Robin Bird just couldn't be quiet. She had to flutter away in a flurry of excitement with a $5 super thanks for a total of 8. You guys absolutely freaking rock.
Robin just came in.
I just saw this.
Membership for two.
Oh,
so
wow.
Sweet.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, she's just upped it. Yeah, she's uh tribal elder. Okay, no, I'm not understanding these ones. Because aren't you already an elder? I thought you were, but maybe you just joined, and I'm thinking because I see you everywhere. We have over 60 members to the channel, and it's grown exponentially. And I am devoting more and more of my time. For example, there is a video that I just put out probably around 3 or 4 this morning. All right. Yeah, I work all hours. It's 5 in the evening where I am right now. And I was working at 4 this morning, right? Got some sleep, and, it's a good thing I have some of my streams pre-planned. I've already done a lot of my research. Today was just a matter of grabbing all of my notes and putting them together in some sort of fashion. So thank you so much. If you just joined, I'll check into that. But Rock and Robin Bird is one of, oh God, any of those people I just mentioned, Agent Pepsi One, who support this channel. And then we have core people who support this channel in the comments, man. Get to know these folks. You know why? If you're watching this stream, that kind of means you probably dig classic rock to a certain extent. And these folks, that's what they're here for.
Oh my goodness, Rock and Robin just came in with a $5.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Rock and Robin. Oh, let's see. Been a tribal elder for 2 months. Thank you. Thank you. I thought you were. And a $5 super thanks. I can give you a thumbs up on Kimberly's, but I can't give you a heart. That's the weakness of my system, folks. Oh, that's so wonderful. You guys are just absolutely terrific. I started the stream saying I was glad to see James was in. James, you know what? Everybody was worried about you. You're one of the staunch supporters of this channel, not just financially, but you've also been a staunch supporter in the comments. You've been a leader of this tribe for so very long, probably senior leader beneath Kimberly and myself and Royce and maybe Dan. People who have been there right even before your time. But as far as just tribal members and everything, you just came shooting out of the ground, and I'm so glad the James was feeling under the weather, and yes, he was telling one of you, yeah, Michael emailed me on the behalf of you two. It was more than just those two, by the way, James. Everybody in the comments was concerned about you, and that's because that's what we got here. I call it the tribal forum. It's almost family, folks. We come from all over. We have different beliefs. I'm not going to get into the spiel that I usually give. But the one thing that we all have in common is we like uh, classic rock. Tonight, we're going to be talking about classic rock in its most heaviest elements, right? And the beginnings of that whole real movement. Okay. And we will debate on that level. But 99% of the comments that I get here, I got one negative comment. I penned it on one of my latest videos. It's either a stream or whatever, where a gentleman was questioning. I guess I was saying that certain bands are iconic and you can't have no Ringo, no. And he said, well, I guess if you had, uh, uh, if the Beatles had fired George, which they were close to doing, or if he had quit and they had come in with another guitarist and they called themselves the Boodles, would they have a prayer with you, Michael? And I just reply, I penned his comment. All right. It was a bit disrespectful. He had this tone to it, and I responded with the same tone. I think I started that response was, I don't know. I forget his name. It would depend how good the Boodles were, right? I would identify them as the Boodles. You damn right, because they wouldn't be the Beatles. There are some bands that are so iconic. And two of the bands we're going to be talking about tonight fall in that category for me. I think most of you would agree that Led Zeppelin is identified by their core membership of Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham, aka Bonzo. I don't think I'll get too many arguments of that. Now, I may get a few arguments, well, a goodly portion. See, Brandon, if you're out there, Oberheim, I've captured your Australian vibe, man. I've been just using that word. But a goodly portion of you would say that no, Black Sabbath was one of those bands that changed its members and everything. And I like the Ozzy period, but I thoroughly enjoy the Dio period, the Ian Gillan period. That was a shocking. I just can't see myself buying that album just because of the cover, right? What was that called? Born Again or whatever? The red with the little devil child. I'd be afraid that album cover would attack me in my sleep, hop out of my record collection, come and get me in my bed. But a lot of you would say that that's true, right?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Ben just came in with a membership for
2 months.
2 months. Oh, so great.
Oh, okay.
Ben
Yeah.
Schuttiger, you're so wonderful.
Oh, I love this. He says, I'm a tribal chieftain.
Yeah.
And down the line, I want to tell you, the vast majority of my members are tribal elders. And to me, that you join my channel, right? You are, and there is going to be a lot more responsibility coming your way. You're going to have say so. So there is like the number one reason to join as a member. All right. And tribal chieftains, you know what they are? That's a higher tier. And at this point, so far, what I've produced has not produced a lot of tribal chieftain. I think I did one poll there a couple of months ago that was directed to tie break something with the tribal chieftains, right? But they will always be like the veto power and everything, and that's coming. Plus, I have some ideas. I want to do members only streams down the line, probably only once a month, but it'll be like a meeting of the board for the channel because the channel is changing. This time last year, I wasn't streaming. This time last year, I had just added you got to understand, I joined YouTube. I think it said October 12th, whatever. But if you look at my first video, it was October 28th of 2021. And I used to do all these, different, it was a tech-oriented channel. All right. And I didn't know what I was doing or anything, but I learned a lot realizing I didn't know what I was doing. And I did a one-off where I actually you can find a review of the very first remake of Dune, or part one on this latest remake of Dune. I mean, I'm a movie buff, right? And at that time, I was just trying different stuff out, and I did a whole review on the movie Dune. Oh, and so I thought, hey, Peter Jackson had just come out with the Disney Get Back stuff that was so amazing. And I'm a bit of a Beatle aficionado. I won't say I'm the deadest expert on, the most dead shot expert on the Beatles of all time, but I'm quite familiar with a ton of crap about the Beatles. I mean, stuff, I've studied them as a musician. Not that I went and learned how to do their songs, although I have in the past done that. I even belonged to a Beatle cover band because that was back when Beatlemania was first going on, and so I teamed up with the bass player for what was that? What was her first name? Band of Gold. Payne was her last name. Gloria Payne, no, Rita Payne. Anyway, The singer who had done Band of Gold. Well, he was her bass player on Band of Gold, so that was his little claim to fame. And he was putting together in the Sonoma County a Beatles cover band. And he was all three of these guys. Huh? Frida Payne. That's it. Band of Gold, right?
Yeah.
I forget this guy's name.
Oh my goodness. Bill Hawkins.
Oh, Bill. Good Lord.
He's here
Stop
big
the
time.
presses and I'll get back to my Band of Gold.
Bill.
And we're in no hurry. And I can guarantee you, Bill Hawkins, after Bill's kind gift, I'm in no hurry to shut this thing down. So we'll have some fun here. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to get to you, Bill. Oh, he doesn't say a thing, darling. He just throws out $50 freaking dollars. All right, now remember what I said. Here, let me give you a thumbs up for that, Bill. Another grand supporter of this channel. And I guarantee you, none of this goes to waste. You guys that have been with me long enough know I've never been busier than I am as a content creator, right? And for the first time, I'm free and easy. I'll put out a video. If it gets 800 views, I'm fine with that. I'm not worried about that. You know, I've been reborn, folks, right? And part of that is putting my trust into the core tribe. I've said what the core tribe is. There's 1,000 of you that are red hot ingots for this channel. You'll watch anything. You'll answer any poll. You'll watch any short I put out or any of my regular videos. You join my channel. You give me super thanks like Bill Hawkins just did, or even $2, right? Yeah. And you'll watch my regular videos on the channel. You'll watch my members only video on the channel. I got a great one. My latest one, I told you. Now, Royce, by the way, the reason I'm bringing this up is, and I may have brought up part of this earlier, but Royce tonight and I are streaming at the same time. I got a call from him or a message from him just before when he realized we were doing this. And no worries, Royce, right? And everybody go on over there, like I said, after this stream. He says he has a 13-minute, what he's done, he said stream, and then I realized, oh, what he's talking about is he's premiering a pre-made video. Now, his pre-made videos are just like when he live streams. He doesn't edit them or anything. He does it all in one shot, right? And but he has his notes there, and he's talking about a specific artist. He has no other guest host up, and he just does it. These are my favorite videos by Royce, and I see them as his future. All right, keep that in mind, Royce. Him and I haven't even talked about it, but I just say what's on my mind, folks. Right? So he's got that. So after you see this stream, go on over there, give him a thumbs up, and please. You know, he also told me he's been stuck for 2 weeks without a single subscriber. Now, I know there's some of you that can help remedy that. 2 weeks, zero growth is unacceptable for my friend Royce. All right. You can't find a nicer guy on the planet. Royce is the Clark Kent of the vinyl community. There's not a mean bone in his body. He's very and that's why I love him so much. I got a couple of mean bones in my body, and I need somebody to chip off my harder edges, and Royce is that for me, right? And in the rare occasion when he's all hot and bothered, I can kind of salve him down, but it's usually me that goes off half cocked, right? But he's a brother. He's connected to this channel. Go take a look at my featured channels. All right. I just saw, oh my God. Did you see this, baby?
Oh my good. Oh my God. Storm Cup. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Storm Cup. You are so sweet. So
I'll get back to Royce here in just a minute.
Oh,
all right.
You and Bill Hawkins and
Storm Cup just came in with a $100
Thank you so much.
Super thanks. And he says, I told you so.
Oh, and we worry every time he's not here. Everybody gets worried. Where's Storm Cup?
You know, Storm Cup.
Oh, you're wonderful.
I've told the tale before, but it bears telling again. because here I've been talking about how the channel has changed and everything, right? Um, and dig this before I get on to this. Thank you so much, James. Wow. Like I said, my longest ongoing, I may have gotten one or two super thanks in the history of the channel before James, but they were like, I got one like after 4 months, and then I got one after, maybe at month 6, and it wasn't something I was pushing for the channel. First of all, I was trying to get my content out, and I didn't feel like, I mean, it felt good when somebody did that, but I still felt like I was getting my feet, kind of on solid ground for the first couple of years here. And I'm still finding my feet, but I'm a little more well shored here. I have an idea of where I want to take this channel, right? But it was at a downtime in the channel where my old approach uh, was stagnating, and it became a chore to make videos. Views were down, and I then made some supreme efforts. And once again, you lose your views. You kind of got to build up again. Got to build up to, well, let's see, let's get a minimum of 3K views and all of that. So anyway, I've always monitored that. And if any content creator on the planet doesn't tells you differently, I think they're full of shit. Okay, because we can't help but monitor that. We all want to get a lot of views, right? And I'll tell you, uh, the channel has gotten a lot of views. Do you know this channel has been a rock and roll channel since February 15th of 2022? We just celebrated concluding year 3, and I've never announced this as a reality on the tribal forum while I've streamed. But we have been into season 4 here on the bottom line since February 15th. We're going in. We've completed 3 years as a rock channel. And I can guarantee you, I have always looked to improve my content, how I present it. And, there's the professional who wants to perform a bit in my videos, and that's fine. But I've been trying to keep the performance element more realistic based and getting there, and I'm still working on it. But that's been my whole approach this year. So that's what I'm offering you guys in my regular videos is just, and I think you've seen a more sit down and relaxed guy on my members videos, especially, right? And it's all a matter of blending that. You want them to be entertaining, right? And I have a wicked sense of humor, and I'm always going to, put the dumbest jokes into my whole approach, right? It's just the way my brain works. Some of you get me, some of you endure me. And so there's 1,000 of you that'll watch anything. And James is in the top 3 of those folks that have watched everything ever since he joined. The only 2 people I can think that have been even there, and only because they were there longer, is Royce, my good friend Royce. And once again, he's tribal, folks, and know what that means. The tribal forum. All right, we are the tribe. All right, I believe in that. We have a voice. This channel has a voice. All right. And you'd be surprised at who's reading your comments. Bigger names than you would think. All right. And that's what I wanted to do with this channel is to give you a voice. From the very outset, I put a lot of time into trying to respond to your comments in my regular videos, sometimes less so, but even sometimes on my shorts, right? But I read all your comments. Otherwise, you won't get a heart from me, right? I read your comments on my polls. All right. You get my life's blood. I am talking to you. And this is my opportunity to talk to you fine, core 100 or less people. So we've gotten about 3 times. We've gotten up to what 133 was our best stream, right? But we are still trying to find our groove here, right? On Wednesdays or Thursdays. Okay, see that was the whole problem. Now I was going to try and choose Wednesdays. I'm still going to try to do that. And so a lot of you weren't even aware that I was going to be streaming tonight. I put it up pretty late. And the reason is I errantly reported that Royce was streaming was not going to stream on Sunday because last Sunday he wasn't streaming, and I thought that he was taking the week off because he had a birthday gig with his wife, his wonderful wife Betty, and so I errantly reported that he won't be. So he was, but he had meant to stream the next night. So I was up streaming the very next night with him, and so I needed a couple of days off. Right, I was up a couple hours with Royce. I went overtime on my show, so I put up a lot of screen time this week, and I wasn't even sure if I'd get to another one because I am, uh, at the point where I have to make another regular video for the channel. But the more I think about it, it's you guys that are showing up here, helping me make decisions and giving me an idea of out of my viewers who agrees with me and why not. And if you don't agree with me, I want to entertain those thoughts. All right. So, James, thank you so much. Let's see. That more than covers it. Channel's growing. Still getting a lot of you saying that you're being unsubscribed. Check your subscription. If you've been unsubscribed, hit that subscribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you'll be notified of all my videos, including streams. Because if some of you are not getting notified of my streams, then the vast majority of my views usually happen while I'm streaming. Occasionally a stream will go out and then triple performance, but just every once in a while.
Oh my goodness, another super.
Oh, thank you, Deuce. A $5 super thanks. Deuce is wild.
Thank you so much.
Here's what he has to say. The ultimate trilogy is at hand. As far as the power of twos, it's worth a deuce. I love this.
Yeah.
Rock on, my tribe. I love you all, synchronized to be so. I love that.
Thank you so much.
You're a poet, Deuce. You really are. No, and you know what? People are if you're new to this stream and you're going, what the hell is this all? Why are they all excited about this? It's because it has happened organically, and it happened organically when I stopped giving a shit about views and started talking about what I gave a shit about. All right, and that happened in February. I got brand new things, and one of the people, Deuce, is one of them too. With your wonderful super thanks, but I was talking specifically prior to Deuce coming in and just blowing us away with such tribal wisdom. I was talking about James. James, I'm a respond as you are guy. If I respond to you in the comments, what I say is what I mean. And James had said something about, oh, you're going to go places. This is good. And he had said it because he was excited, I think, about a particular video. And I was absolutely frustrated because I think I had gotten 3 or 4 videos in a row that couldn't crack 2,000 views. And the channels used to, to me, our low viewer count. Let me get that. Yeah, by the way, this, I love this. I'll leave it on. Just your curiosity, you guys, this is my screensaver for Apple Screensaver. And I chose this because this is from an aerial view of Sonoma County, California. This is where I was raised. This is the country that I was raised. I traipsed all up and down these hills. All right. Every one of these hills that you see going down there. I know all those mountain ranges around there. I mean, that was my backyard. We moved into Sonoma County. We were East Bay in the Bay Area for a couple of years before that. But when I was 9 in 1969, and we had lived in a poorer district in the East Bay, and my mom managed to get us. This is when my parents split, and my mom managed to get us into Santa Rosa, California. I swear to God, I remember before Santa Rosa watching Leave It to Beaver and could not believe that anybody lived in a house as nice as the Cleavers, right? And we moved into the bedroom community. I think the population at that time in 64 was about 40,000. All right. It's now at about well, last time I was in town, city limits, it was saying about 177,000. It's probably gone way up there. And the area just outside the city limits and well in there, easily 250,000 before bumping into bedroom communities that belong to other territories, right? So I had Luther Burbank developed. This is the home of Luther Burbank. Luther Burbank called Santa Rosa, California, or actually called Sonoma County, the Garden of Eden of planet Earth. Famous horticulturist, I should say, right? So that's my background, you see, and that's what we talk about here. Yeah, whatever comes up, but I've got a show planned for you, folks, and I've got some ideas on how to deal with it. One more thing, James just mentioned in the comment not too long ago that he got his tribal mug. Now, this is, we are still in, how's the best way to promote this, darling? Shall we call this a limited edition prototype tribal mug?
Yeah, yeah.
Does that sound, yeah, because I think that about calls it. All right, a limited edition um, prototype tribal mug. And several of you, I've heard from 8 or 9 of you already that have ordered their copy. And there's one bugaboo I just wanted to address about it. So go to your, whatever device you're watching and click on the title. That'll take you to what we professional YouTubers call the description box, right? And just click the more. If you're on an iPad, it may just click the whole thing open. But the very first link here is the tribal store, right? And more is coming to this, but it'll take you, you know, you can choose your own browser to take it. And we have, and this image is going to come backwards because we're still, like I said, uh, come the by the end of the year, we will have upped our game. Kimberly and I are talking about this all the time after the show. And by the way, I do address a lot of you who were over at Royce's and singing Kimberly's praises, right? Well, there was a part there where I sang her praises because you guys were making so many wonderful comments about my beautiful, wonderful wife, the love of my life. I call her Kiki D. Her name's Kimberly. Her middle name is Deanne. And so I've always called her Kiki D. Right?
Yes, you have.
Yes, I have. From day one, huh?
Yes, you have.
I even went in and carved Kiki D with a design I developed on a crafter guitar that she had bought me as a wedding gift. And I, of course, passed that guitar on to our daughter, who's 25 right now. And she has Kiki D.
Yeah.
My Kiki D guitar, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's still here. Maybe I'll bring that one up one day on a thing. We're in no hurry, folks. We're going to get to everything tonight. All right. So anyway, this is unfortunately backwards, but for those who are not dyslexic, that's supposed to say, we are the tribe. And I chose a design of people from all walks of life, and nothing descript. If you notice, there's no skin color. There's nothing about them. You might be able to pick out one is younger, one might be older, one's skinnier, one's heavier, right? I love the design and I like the idea of keeping it in silhouette, right? Because it's not a matter of who we are individually, it's who we are as a tribe. And of course, the logo says, we are the tribe. That's something I have been saying from the very beginning of my videos, are pretty close to them. Where I sign off, I'm Michael Noland, this is the bottom line. But only the bottom line as I see it, because it's the real bottom lines in the comments, like what you guys are typing right now. Okay, that's the real bottom line. And then I'll say, and that's where you will find that truly we are the tribe. So I thought this was nice. And of course, on the other side, like every good mug, it's got my mug. All right. And basically, that is the icon I've chosen for this channel from the very beginning. All right. And it says Michael Noland, the bottom line. All right. So it encompasses so much about what the channel is about. People have always asked me, where were you when when you're walking on the beach? That was the last big family vacation we had, because I've been so locked into making this channel. But we went down to Santa Cruz and had one of the best freaking days of my life. I swear to God, that day was touched with golden magic, wasn't it, baby?
It was a beautiful day. Rachel was with us.
It was almost like Santa Cruz said, let me morph myself into what you think would be the coolest Santa Cruz that you could imagine, right? It explored some cavettes in and out, rock formations with trillions of color, and the light and the salt in the air turning them crystal. Oh, it was magic.
Lots of sailboats out on the water.
Yeah.
Like the beach more than
right.
The carnival.
Yeah. And that was our last family really big vacation. And we had a wonderful night, day and night there. It was great. And I got to tell you, it means something to me. So that's why I chose that, right? As a matter of fact, this icon, I'm still sporting, if you notice, my full beard, right? My very earliest videos, I had a full face. Good Lord, I look more like my German half. I'm basically Irish, German, and a touch of Native American Indian. It's debatable how much. Some say a quarter. And yet I've heard something else there. But if you believe parents' tales, I should be a quarter. All right. American Indian. I think Sioux and Fox, whatever percentage I have. So that's kind of like where I come from, you know. But I have lots of influences and everything, and a history as a professional musician who's worked and made money doing it. I'm also a singer-songwriter, always, with the exception of that Beatle band I was in, which I made more money playing Beatles songs than I ever made writing my own stuff, right? And even when I wrote my own stuff, we'd have to stick in, you know, One of These Nights by the Eagles, Can't Get Enough by Bad Company, you know, got to do Honky Tonk Woman, you know, and then you can, you know, you do two of the, you know, covers and slip one of your originals in, right? And but that's the life for 98% of all musicians. And I don't ever regret not making the big time, boy. You're no longer on the ball, because I loved the journey and I learned so much, and it enriched my life like so many of you. All right, let's get on to this whole idea. First of all, I want to go over to an article that kind of discusses the launch of heavy rock, basically nailing it down to 1970, the year heavy metal was born. All right. Now, think about the three bands we're going to be talking about. All right. We've got Led Zeppelin, right? Many people identifying them as rock's first heavy metal band. All right. They don't agree with Black Sabbath being rock's first heavy metal band, right? And there's a whole ton of us in the middle that sees neither one of them as either. Or at least Black Sabbath to me was never heavy metal up to the point of Ozzy leaving the band or being kicked out of the band or being transported out of the band by alien being. I don't know how the story goes to there. I know he was at a low point in his life and he could be a real uh, pain in the ass to have to deal with. A lot of people were done with him. He met the love of his life through the mafioso daughter of Don Arden and turned his career around anyway. And I've even said, back over on Royce, I said, Ozzy is a, if you go back far enough on Royce, my first responses when I did the channel was, I don't know. I don't, Ozzy is I mean, they're okay tunes. I didn't turn them off, but I'm not a big Ozzy Osbourne solo fan. And then out came Patient Number 9, and I was just sold on that album. So I go, okay, so why am I sold? Well, it had Jeff Beck on it. It had Eric Clapton on it. Had uh, uh, Taylor. Taylor Hawkins, Foo Fighters drummer on it. It had Tony Iommi on it, right? So that was my intro into his solo career, believe it or not. I never bought an Ozzy solo album, and I never ever bought a Black Sabbath album after Ozzy was out. Right? We were talking about that earlier, and I know a lot of you don't agree with me. Plenty of Black Sabbath fans like. Matter of fact, there's some of you that just like the Dio era, plain and simple, and some of you just like, look, it's Sabbath, man. Ozzy was golden and all, but they evolved. Michael, what's your problem with that, you may ask? After all, aren't you a fan of Yes, and haven't they traded members like baseball cards, like you always say? And it's just that, see, with Yes, that was true from the moment they were already on another incarnation from the moment I discovered them. And before I even had my grips and going, okay, yeah, and getting to know each member, Bill Bruford was gone, right? And in comes Alan White. So my background sees them as a less uh, one of those bands that you need to honor an iconic membership. Although there is an iconic membership for Yes for me, and that's John Anderson on vocals, Chris Squire on bass. What am I? Steve Howe, thank you, on guitar, and Bill Bruford on drums with Rick Wakeman on keyboards. That's like, to me, that's true, 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 yes, right? But I also love some of the other members, and as a matter of fact, I'm even a bit of a fan of the current lineup, even though it only has one so-called original member, even though Steve Howe isn't really truly an original member, but he goes back far enough. In general, he's an original member, and I love their album Mirror to the Sky. I judge a band by their output ultimately every time. And Mirror to the Sky to me is Yes. And it ranks fairly high. I've got to do a countdown on Yes. I don't know if I've done, yeah, I did my 5 favorite and I looked back on it and I go, why did I pick that up? But anyway, yeah, it's been a while since I've done a thing on Yes. And I think I should do that, if nothing more than on as a members only video. All right. So Anyway, here we get to 1970. Black Sabbath was formed in 1968. Deep Purple was formed in 1968, and Led Zeppelin was formed in 1968. All right, with roots to Led Zeppelin almost forming back 2 years prior to that. Right. So when we talk heavy bands, and in my poll, one of the incarnations that I gave you that you could vote on included Cream, and Cream would come right out of that era too, right? And there's DNA connecting that. A lot of people, I think it was Doc Insomnia, said, "Hey, my favorite are Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Mountain, and Black Sabbath." That's how he listed it. So his Trinity, his Holy Trinity, does not include Black Sabbath, right? But on my poll, over on my poll, Black Sabbath teamed up with Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple is kicking the shit out of that poll. The last time I was up, it was at 88%. The measly 12% left for the three remaining options had to be split between them. And I think all of them were single digits. So that tells me that a whole lot of you, right? And we're over, yeah, it's only hours long, and I think it was just about ready to go to 600 votes so far. So this poll is still very young. But once you get past 500 votes, you start seeing a curve, right? Definitely. Around 500, you don't see anything change for the remainder of the poll too often. Every once in a while, something happens. All right, so this article starts off, and I thought this was a good launch point. It says tolling church bells and pouring rain are sounds typically associated with funerals. They also marked the birth of heavy metal. After being used as the introduction to Black Sabbath's eponymous 1970 debut, all right, the church bells, right? We've talked about, yeah, you watch a band live. I don't mind a recorded church bell to set the mood as a backing track. I just want the rest of the stuff to be live. But that, I've used that before. The article goes on to say, but did Black Sabbath really invent heavy metal? All right. This is an age-old debate. Yeah, this is an age-old debate on this channel. What's that, darling?
Said Helter Skelter.
Helter Skelter. Yeah. All right. Yeah. See?
Bill Hawkins reminded me
Yeah.
of the name.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the slower version of Helter Skelter. Who brought that up, babe?
Bill Hawkins.
Bill Hawkins. Bill, yeah. Even the slower version is heavy metal. My God, the more bluesier, when I get back to the bottom, I get back to the top of the slide. Oh God, it's got grit, it's got teeth. Could mention, brother. Tolling church bells and pouring rain are sounds typically associated. Okay, so we talked. I was going back in time. Well, obviously, not all by themselves was the answer, and not right away. Years would pass before the heavy metal description actually stuck with listeners, all right, or was even accepted by many of the bands involved. But most of the genre's fundamental musical ingredients, lyrics, themes, and even its outcast status as rock and roll's bastard offspring, I love that, were crystallized on Sabbath's first album. Right now, I'm glad that they're pointing out Sabbath's first album because, I get a lot of people saying, the first heavy metal album is Paranoid. You can see articles that will vote, yeah, Paranoid. Like, okay, so what is it about Paranoid then that isn't on Black Sabbath that makes that the first heavy metal album and not the first debut album, self-titled Black Sabbath album? To me, I've always maintained that if Black Sabbath was indeed the progenitors of heavy metal, and there's an argument for that. I don't buy it, but there is an argument for it. Then isn't the first heavy metal album their debut album, Black Sabbath? I've even been doing my regular viewers know I've been doing a ton of listening to Black Sabbath lately, right? And especially Royce encouraged me on one of his streams. Michael, because I was listening to a lot of Master of Reality at that time. I had just gotten that, and as a matter of fact, tonight, this is a good time as any, folks. It'll also, who was it that, it was David L. Yeah. So, um, as some of you know, I've been collecting vinyl for a little over a year, right? And I'm not going hog wild on it, although, uh, first of all, a good 30 of my records must have come from Royce. Right now, I've got a small record collection. I just counted them up the other day, and I have 128 records. I'll have 129 as soon as Alice Cooper's Revenge shows up at my doorstep. So that's pre-ordered. And so my next regular visit at a store will hit me at about 130. Now, that's a very small record collector, especially if you're a vinyl enthusiast first or an audiophile. You're going to want a whole lot more than what 130 records can bring you. But so far, I mean, at 130, you're frustrated because you still only have half of the core albums you really want and need, and that doesn't include new versions and newer bands coming out. Still got to get Dirty Honey. I keep putting them on the back burner, see, and that's part of the problem. Nobody's rushing out for new groups. But here's where I am right now, folks, as far as my vinyl collection for Black Sabbath. And I've shared this before on my members only video, but it's grown since then. Since then, you'll see a couple of new additions here. Of course, that would be if indeed Black Sabbath was is that better? Yeah, something like that. If Black Sabbath was the progenitor or the original heavy metal band, that's the album that did it.
Carrie Melcher.
All right. Absolutely. Okay. Then we have, I've got their second album. All right. Paranoid, which was the very first Black Sabbath album I ever owned. And it's kind of like with Led Zeppelin, I always tell you guys, I don't rank it as my number one album with Led Zeppelin, which is their very first album, Led Zeppelin, or AKA Led Zeppelin 1, right? But it's my heart's favorite. I have a softness for Led Zeppelin 1 that all the other Led Zeppelin albums just can't quite touch. This is the one that does it for me for Black Sabbath because I got it. And I've told you guys this before. I bought this. I bought 3 albums that day. I bought Killer by Alice Cooper, Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and Harvest by Neil Young. That's the way we used to collect records, folks. It wasn't all one style or anything like that. And all 3 of those albums I consider masterpieces.
Dawson Walters is in the chat room.
Who's that?
Dawson Walters.
Hey, Dawson, how you doing? Dawson's always often a member. Good Lord, all the time a member these days of our panel up on Royce, and always has great things to say.
This is Wild did it again.
Oh my goodness, let's take a look at this. But anyway, it's good to see you in the chat, Dawson. I had left open the night I thought Royce wasn't going to be streaming for a week, but nobody from the panel showed up, and mainly because you guys thought, well, we're taking the day off. Deuces Wild in with $5. Thank you so much. He says, let's not forget in 1964 when Dave Davies, I'm going to call him Davies. I don't give a damn which one of them says it's Davis. I can read dumb shit. It's Davies.
Of the Kinks.
Of the Kinks. Cut the cone off his amp, creating the first distortion in a song with You Really Got Me. Yeah. And yet John Lennon quotes as using Feedback. Well, feedback and distortion's different. Okay, good call. Yeah, nice. Right. Right, right. Okay, I was thinking of feedback with John Lennon on what is that? You know. Anyway, this was the album that I was listening to a lot when Royce encouraged me. This album, we'll talk about that later. And I had just gotten Black Sabbath 4, right? So I have their first four albums, and then with David L's wonderful, I think it was David who said, "Here, go buy some records." I got for Father's Day, I got Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, one of the best album covers ever, right? Dig that. Isn't that something? And then the back covers like the antithesis of what's happening on the first cover. Very, when this first came out, this was bar none my favorite Sabbath album when it was first released. And then I just got this one too. All right. Thank you, David. Sabotage. All right. Haven't opened this one. Right. So that's what I've got from them. I've got their what? Their first six albums? Four, five, six. Right. And I want to get everything up to and including Ozzy. All right. So keep that in mind. All right. So when we're talking about Sabbath, though, did I respond to this? Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Thank you, Deuce. Um, let's get back to this. Yeah. Keep blinking on me, buddy. Okay, so prior to 1970 and Black Sabbath's arrival, the sounds that we now recognize as the building blocks for heavy metal were both scattered and accidental, making it impossible to pinpoint any other album or band as the genre's absolute ground zero. From the start of the British invasion came The Who. Live at Leeds was coincidentally recorded the day after after Sabbath's debut was released, and that's a heavy freaking live album. The Yardbirds and the Kinks, all of whom were incorporating distortion, as we just discussed, and feedback to their records as far back as the mid 60s. I think the Beatle, John said he laid claim for the first feedback on any record than anybody for the Beatles, right? Metal's roots in heavy blues came from Cream, which was one of the iterations that I gave you guys to vote for. The Jeff Beck group, I didn't include them, but Iron Butterfly, Vanilla Fudge, I did include them in my poll, right? Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, and add to that group Steppenwolf, right? Okay, all who are credited with coming up with the phrase heavy metal, all right? What is that? On Born to Be Wild, Heavy Metal Thunder, right? Together, these acts prove that this sound was, in fact, commercially viable, and it certainly was. Taking people, they talked about it being kind of slightly ajar from what we were used to, and all of a sudden thrust into not only what, if not what we're used to, but what we can get used to really quick, right? Perhaps the only group that came close to capturing heavy metal's fantastic or fatalistic outlook, sheer volume, and antisocial nature prior to 1970 was San Francisco's Blue Cheer. And I included Blue Cheer as one of the options with two other bands, right? And yet, the vast majority of you all voted for Zeppelin, Sabbath, and Purple. Okay. At the same time, one should never underestimate the importance of the period's improving amplification technology led by the newly developed Marshall stack. Absolutely. We talked about how Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck had tech wizards that they were talking to, developing, getting boxes made for them. This is the infancy of what I consider at least the gateway to the digital age. All right. These are the dinosaur bones to the digital age. This is what led up to it, right? I can see my screen. Let's just take care of that. Huh. There we go. Voila.
Dr. Insomnia says the phrase heavy metal is from a William Burroughs novel. Fact.
Yeah, we had talked about that. That even predates Steppenwolf's lyrics. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we discussed that. I may have been over on a Royce stream, actually. Right. So good point. Who was that?
Dr. Insomnia.
All right. Hey, it's good to see you, Doc. He was worried about getting in. He says if it runs long or anything, yeah, we'll run a bit long tonight. We're not just going to do an hour here. We'll go as long as I've got the energy to go here. And I don't know if you were in the chat, but I mentioned your comment, Doc, on your choice for the greatest holy trinity would have been Zeppelin, Purple, and Mountain. But and Sabbath number 4, but not quite making that. And yet it seems like in my poll, I included your iteration, that choice, as one of the options in the poll. I think that's your second option, just because you had made that comment. By the way, that's why that choice was there in honor of Doc Insomnia, who offers the channel. You know what? He signs in a day before the stream with ideas or at least his thoughts. Well, here's what I'm thinking. I hope this is what we're gonna, And I always appreciate his comments and his approaches to looking at a subject. And I've adjusted like I did for this poll to accommodate some of his comments. So let me get back to this. It says that brings us back to 1970 and Black Sabbath's paradigm shifting first album. Within months, record stores across the globe would be infiltrated by dozens of releases that are seen today as cornerstones of heavy metal, delivered by bands that both predated Sabbath and followed in their wake. Chief among the former category, perhaps, were Deep Purple, which had already produced 3 studio albums, right? They had scored a major US hit with Hush. I love that song. Love that song. In 1968, then dabbled in symphonic rock. We talked about that story. That's when John Lord had his way, right? And he wanted to do this orchestrational piece with Deep Purple going in. Richie Blackmore was never hot and heavy on that idea, but went along with it. But when it kind of crashed and burned for him, in general, they got back on their feet then, right? And that was kind of called Concerto for Group and Orchestra. All right. Only to reinvent themselves behind the incomparable guitar virtuosity of leader Richie Blackmore. It says 1970s pivotal rock, I should say, Deep Purple would completely complete the holy trinity of British heavy rock, along with Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, who ironically turned to folkier sounds with their third LP in 1970. See, while all of this is happening, Zeppelin never, ever, ever to be pigeonholed. And they could prove it at any moment's time because you didn't know what you were going to get from them. All right. You could kind of guess what you were going to get with the next Led Zeppelin album or Black Sabbath album. And you could kind of guess at a musical approach depending on what mark when you dealt with Deep Purple. Right. Now, as far as Deep Purple goes, I'm getting up there. Not as many Black Sabbaths, but I just got this one in the last month. Okay. Isn't that nice? All right. And I got, of course, this was the first purchase I made by them, right? Or second, and I'll explain that in a minute. Machine Head. Burn, got a nice used copy of Burn Mark III, right? So I've got two albums so far by Mark II, yeah, Mark II, and one Mark III. Here's one Mark IV, right? With Tommy Bolin on guitar. Come taste the band. And what me got the very first one I got, their brand new album. I swear to God, folks, is a great album. Equals one, Deep Purple. Still three core members in the band, and I absolutely love it. All right, so I'm on my way to getting these, and it'll be interesting when I because of how I rank these bands. It's quite interesting where I am with Purple. Okay, so basically they come to the point uh, also giving a special notice, even though Led Zeppelin changed their style on that third record, they also had Immigrant Song on it, all right, which is such has so many heavy metal identifiers to it. You could write a thesis on the song why that is not, or why that could be certainly a basic template for heavy metal. But once again, keep in mind that many of us fans, and me in general, I never saw them. I saw them as heavy rock. I saw these three bands as heavy rock. I had a fourth favorite band, Uriah Heep. Who Uriah Heep was in one of the mentions, one of a group of three, and it didn't get many votes either, which is sad. I'd like to see them become more recognized because I think they were the fourth alternative. You know, Black Sabbath not feeling so good today. Well, we'll get Uriah Heep. You know, right? I love Uriah Heep. Other late 60 Brit contenders seeking to capitalize on this hot new musical style included Steve Marriott's always fiery Humble Pie. Okay. Uh, who else? Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac Early, Roy Gallagher's Taste. Okay. So all of this comes from a rather, there is a firm background uh, to how this sound starts or starts to be developed at this point. Now, let me make sure I've got this here. Yeah, there you go. All right, so now we get to take a look at the band from different aspects. All right. So first of all, how good of musicians were these three bands? You know, and with Deep Purple, we're not going to go. I'm going to keep it to about Mark. We'll stay with Marks 2, 3, and 4 for the most part because those were the marks that were out while I was buying these other albums, right? Just to make it a simpler comparison. With Black Sabbath for tonight, I'm just going to be comparing Black Sabbath with Ozzy, right? And for Led Zeppelin, of course, they are frozen in time with the death of John Bonham early. There is only one Led Zeppelin and how to view them, right? What's that, darling?
I was just saying that Stephen Fox said, don't forget Peter Frampton was in Humble Pie.
Humble Pie, yes, he was. Yes, he was. Absolutely, he was.
Yes,
Good point. And it's good to see you in the comments, Stephen. I haven't even been over to the comments yet since I got up. All right. I've got so many screens going on here. It's impossible to get to the comments until I can kind of take a break here. So let's take a look at the bands. You guys know my second favorite band of all time is Led Zeppelin. So they're going to be my favorite band out tonight. Right. And how good were they as musicians? Well, Robert Plant is my favorite vocalist of all time and favorite rock vocalist, right? Uh, John Bonham's my favorite drummer of all time. Jimi Hendrix is my favorite lead guitarist in rock of all time, right? I know a lot of you would go, no, you know, dude, Hendrix, or no, dude, you know, Clapton, nah, Jeff Beck, Santana, man, you know. Van Halen, right? But you know, he's my favorite. John Paul Jones is not only, you know, the more I'm doing this, I'm going to give it to Chris Squire, but John Paul Jones is in my top three bass players, but that's not just his only secret. He's a great keyboardist, and he reads music and arranges orchestras and everything else like it. So when you talk about Led Zeppelin, you're talking cream of the freaking crop. It you just don't get any better members, right? The Beatles did, right, for their style. But I mean, that's how you want to be the best band in rock. Get that kind of membership, get that kind of pedigree to start off with. All right, now when you talk about Deep Purple, Ian Pace would be in my top 10 drummers. All right, I wouldn't make him quite up with John Bonham, but it's a shards of difference. I mean, the guy's incredible, right? Adds so much to the sound of Deep Purple. Roger Glover, fantastic bassist. Later, Glenn Hughes, able to keep that bass sound of his own, and incredible lead vocalist for any damn band, right? You've got top notch bass players, but again, not quite on the level of John Paul Jones, but getting up there, top 10 basses in rock. Roger, I don't know. I'm going to have to listen to Roger's lines versus Glenn Hughes a little bit more before I would make a choice there. Yeah, but
Insomnia says zappa, 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 zappa.
Yep. Yep. There's always the Zappa heads out there that are gonna, yeah, you don't forget, I agree. And then so that leads us to uh, John Lord on keyboards. All right. Which out of these bands, this is the only band that has a dedicated keyboardist, although John Paul Jones could step in quite nicely for Zepp at any moment. But John Lord, as far as being, who's the better keyboardist? Oh, God. John Lord's better than John Paul Jones. And John Paul Jones is great. John Paul Jones is more classic. I don't know, man. So is John Lord. But talk about a keyboard. He would have to be good to keep up with their guitarist. My fourth favorite guitarist of all time, Richie Blackmore. Okay. So we're talking, and by the way, just because he'd be number 4 and Jimmy Page would be number 1, yeah, talk about whispers of curtains of difference. I can show you a solo by Richie Blackmore that smokes Jimmy solo on this particular track, right? But I think overall, I like Jimmy Page's whole approach and style. His, he could be more eclectic and everything. But Richie Blackmore bringing in 17th and 18th century motifs into it, along with John Lord's help, by the way, and Ian Gillan, he's a top 10 vocalist for me, but he wouldn't be in my top 5, right? But still, anybody in the top 10 in a top 10 list in rock and roll, when you have a couple of thousand bands that have recorded notable records, then you've got a top-notch vocalist, right? And so as a musicianship, yeah, they've got the same overall sheen that Led Zeppelin has. Then we get to Black Sabbath. All right, starting with the drummer, Bill Ward, vastly underrated drummer. I can show you stuff, especially off some of his stuff with Planet Caravan and everything. Top-notch drummer. I wouldn't put him anywhere close to Bonham. And Ian Pace, I probably like his style a little better. I like a good syncopation, somebody that does, and things like that. But then I think of certain things that Bill Ward, he could do it. So that would be a tough call. So they've got a top-notch drummer, pretty close to the level of Ian Pace, right? Some of you may say, oh, no, he buries Ian Pace. Geezer Butler, very inventive bass player. I wouldn't put him in my top 5 bass players of all time. And so top 10, I don't know, maybe not even the top 10. There's some great bassists out there. But he was also their lyricist. We'll get into that in a moment. So But absolutely, anybody in the top 20 for that matter is going to be a bit of a sheen of a musician. Then we get to Tony Iommi. And Tony Iommi, you know what I call him? I call him Mr. Riffmaster himself, one of the most inventive guitarists. And when you take into consideration that he's playing with the tips of his fingers had been cut off in a industrial accident. He's left-handed, so it's probably in his right hand. But and then he fashioned plastic tips for these and learned to play guitar through those. All right. When you think of that and the feel he has and everything, yeah, he would be in my top 15 guitarists. All right. Definitely my top 15 guitarists, and getting even much more of a bump than that because of his riff ability. You also got to do that. If you take into account his riff ability, he might even enter into the top 10. Okay. So excellent there. And then you have Ozzy. I wouldn't consider Ozzy one of the greatest vocalists of any genre. All right. He has a nasally quality to his voice, right? And the earlier the records are, the more amateur the approach is. But it is such Black Sabbath. Somehow, he sits ajar from the band. A lot of lead vocalists are writing lyrics. Usually, that's not true with Ozzy. He likes to write melody. So he would, and we'll get into that, right? But I'm not saying he's not a great vocalist or anything like that. But it's like Neil Young is a great vocalist, in my opinion, but a lot of people can't stand him. He sounds wimpy and whiny, you know? Cowgirl in the sand, that kind of thing, right? So, but I love him. And I love Ozzy, and he is the perfect vocalist for Black Sabbath because if his voice, which kind of sits when you think of the other band, and a lot of them didn't even want him in the band at the beginning, but he had a PA system, the power of the PA. I have a PA back here. Here's the speakers to it, the head, one of the speakers here, right? And I'll tell you, I learned early, you own the PA, you got a lot of power in a band. You kind of get your way. And when you're a musician trying to make your way, you really want to have a say. And that's what got Ozzy into the band to begin with, right? So somehow, against two premium vocalists, by the way, I mean Ian Gillan and Robert Plant, somehow the band can stand toe to toe with those two bands, right? Isn't that something? Now, what about their writing styles? Well, with Led Zeppelin, you've got a couple of different they could write together, right, as a group. They could write with two of them, like Robert Plant could team up with John Paul Jones and often teamed up with Jimmy Page. So we get Plant and Page, lots of Plant and Page, right? Or an occasional Plant, Page, and John Paul Jones tune. And so they would work in different fashions, and they relied on their drummer, right, to come up with the backbone of the song, or sometimes, if you can believe this from a drummer, even the soul of a song. Want a perfect example of that? Listen to Kashmir, right? Kashmir was put together originally by Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones. They were all supposed to meet at the house, right? And John Paul Jones just needed some time off. And so they kind of packed their bags and from Headley and wheeled it in Bad Company, who recorded their first album there. And they would reconvene later, but they used those original tapes as the backbone of that song. So they had many different ways of writing songs. Some of you even saying Yeah, they couldn't write their a song to save their life. They stole all their material. And while there is some truth to that, certainly on their first album for sure, right? Even the material that you would say they stole, which I just did a short. It's almost 3 minutes long short where I explain every song that they were accused of stealing from that album, and give you about 8 or 9 example of other stars that did the same damn thing. Yet there's a lot of blame pointed at Led Zeppelin, and I think that's bullshit because even though watch my short, you'll understand. But they learned certainly to become master songwriters, right? And they utilized everybody in the band to do it. All right, that gets us to Deep Purple. Well, with Mach 2, it was always by all 5 members. That's how they did their songs. Just it was Gillan, Glover, uh, Blackmore, Lord, and Pace on all of their songs. Right now, this slightly changed when they went to Mark III. Coverdale came in along with Glenn Hughes, and uh, Coverdale started writing songs. And there's a couple of things where there was a few songs written as a band, but for the most part, now we start seeing partnerships develop. With Coverdale at first, it was Coverdale and Page quite a bit, right? Coming up with a lot of the material. And then for Mark IV, when Boland was in, Coverdale and Boland writing some of their stuff, right? And so there was more of a drive. And by the time, what was their comeback album after in the mid 80s, Deep Purple, it has the big DP on it. Um, you know, you start seeing songs being credited to 1 or 2 or 3 of the members, not everybody involved. And so there was less of a cohesive approach to it. But often, whether they got credited as a songwriter or not, the band members, for the most part, especially any Mark II lineup, or album, there was more of a band approach than when David Coverdale came in to lead sing, and when Tommy Bolin finally took Richie Blackmore's place when he left. Yeah, baby.
Royce says back in the day, having a PA got you a job in a band.
That's right. Yeah. I absolutely. And I saw you there just a minute ago, Royce. I was going to say hi. Told everybody to go over and see your latest video. I gave them a hint, telling them it's about Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, and anarchy. That's all you're getting out of me, folks. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Thanks for getting in touch with me too, Royce. I appreciate that. And no problems, brother. When you put out your things, that's a premiere. And to me, that's that's slightly different. Don't worry about that. But I appreciate you worrying about stepping on my toes. And that's Royce. Royce is going, I'm sorry I did that. I didn't know you were streaming tonight. And
Royce is
just
a nice guy.
Oh yeah, like I said, the nicest guy on the internet.
So sweet.
A lot nicer than me. Makes me, he makes me look better. I almost look humane. But
you're just a big sweetheart.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Well, anyway, so and just on Royce's last stream, I was apologizing for possibly messing up his Monday stream, because I told everybody he wasn't going to be streaming until next week. So, and I was up on that. It's good to see you here. It's good to see. Did you say Dawson was in?
Yeah.
If you see Novus Nick, or if you see Dan, or Melissa Boomer of the Night, anybody that has shared a portion of Royce's panel, I would always try and make an effort to, highlight a comment or two by you,
in the house.
Let's see. I wanted to find this, that Piccoline is always welcome. Longtime supporter of both Royce and I. Oh, Stephanie's here. Yeah. Well, let me finish up and I'll connect with you guys. So that gets us down to, again, as far as writing with Black Sabbath. For the most part, structural ideas would come with Tony coming up with riffs. Now, this could come up with a jam session kind of established. Maybe Bill Ward was there at the beginning. They're messing around in the studio, gives him an idea, but basically it's like his riff. Often using Bill Ward to offer different ideas. Some of the stuff, like I said, he did with Planet Caravan, and there's many other examples that he could kind of get involved, if not with the actual writing of the song itself, but flavoring and orchestrational feel of the song, right? And then you had to have a lyricist. Well, traditionally, that would fall to the lead singer. But for the most part, Ozzy Osbourne, as great a lead singer and frontman as he is, he's not much of a lyricist. There are points where he has done, and one of my favorite songs, Fairies Wear Boots. Yeah, you gotta believe me, I saw it. I saw it with my own two eyes, right? All right, yeah. Great lyrics, and that was by Ozzy, but for the most part, it just like Rush has their drummer, kind of breaking norms. Yes, our drummer writes our lyrics. Oh, really? Who would have thought that? And you kind of think that with the bass player, who isn't doing a lot of the lead vocals and stuff like that. You'd expect maybe a Glenn Hughes to come up with a hit or some lyrics, maybe ideas for it. But Geezer Butler's the guy, and he just kind of took the job because he was better than the rest of them at it, right? And so it, it his the idea that he's not just a great bassist, but he also where he comes off of, like the song Paranoid. It's more about depression. And in an interview, he once said that I really didn't know what paranoia was. I was a young man. I hadn't really bumped into paranoia, heard it, kind of used it. And I can guarantee you, every songwriter starts off this way. You, oh, I like that. I like that as a title, and you do it, and it doesn't even mean anything you think it was. Maybe you should have gone to the library, found out what the word was about. And he was guilty of that with the song of Paranoid, but he got real good at it, right? The song of Iron Man, the whole concept. All right, he had this different, and this is the difference between Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. Black Sabbath has this kinkiness, kind of darkness to it that's real easy to go, oh, yes, music, Margaret, right? And yet, if you look at their lyrics and everything, it's more science fiction involved. And when it does touch on the occult, the devil, the demons are always bad.
Oh, my goodness sakes, honey.
I just saw that.
Just came in with the super things.
Let me check this out. So oh, Ben, thank you. Ben was in earlier, too. Wonderful. Yeah. Let me read this. Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin had a recording session together in 1973 where Led Zeppelin tried to get Black Sabbath to sign under their label. I wasn't aware of this. Wow. Iommi later wrote The Seventh Star, influenced by Kashmir. Oh, now I've got to listen to that. All right. Oh, thank you, Ben. That's great. See, not only does he give us $10, but I just gain knowledge.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And of course, that'll be on my channel analytics, so I won't lose this once the stream is gone. I don't even have to take a screenshot of this, Ben. But Ben, thank you so much. For those of you who wonder why these people do this, well, they are the people that are keeping this channel going. Right? If you're brand new to the stream, you're wondering what it's all about. Hey, here's the best way to tether to the channel. Just hit that subscribe to the tribe button, tap that top bell icon, and you too will be notified of all my future videos and streams. Yeah, it even becomes more critical for streams, doesn't it, folks? Right? And we're still trying to find our groove as to what our midweek day is. I want it to be Wednesday. I think I get a little bit better viewership at that time. And I'd like to create an island of time between Wednesday and Sunday where I can do other things for the channel. As you guys know, I'm busier than hell. I'm doing this full time. I'm making notes in my sleep, waking up and going, voice activate. Make sure you cover blah blah blah, and I go back to sleep. So I live and breathe this channel. For the most part, it's a one-man shop, with the exception and probably one of the keyest elements for this and most exciting things that I like to do, which are these live streams. Then I have a partner in crime, my wonderful wife, Miss Kiki D, Kimberly Deanne Noland.
Golly gee,
I love you.
hon.
I mean it, darling. You know I do. I'm not lying.
Golly gee, yeah.
Love of
I
my
know,
life.
I know.
I hit the jackpot. When I first met her, every guy at the hospital, we worked at a state hospital.
Yeah,
all right.
we did.
I was a psych nurse, right? And I met her, and I saw her from the side, and I saw her with her nose tilted slightly in the air, and I go, hot chick.
Okay.
She probably thinks she's something. And so I wasn't going to have any of it. But I couldn't help. I couldn't help it. So we started talking and everything, and I found out that what I thought was this like big-headed, cool, beautiful woman that everybody in the hospital wanted to date was actually quite reserved and special and believed in the same things I believed in, and I fell in love with her. So that's my baby.
Storm Cop has to go.
Oh, Storm Cop, sorry to see you go, but we've been going for about an hour and a half, and I know you're ahead of me. But brother, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You are one of the vanguard, a vanguard of probably about 20 of you that just head the charge in so many ways. All right. Thank you, sir. A big salute, and I'm glad you're doing better, brother. I was concerned. For those who are just joining, we had so many people worried about Storm Cop, right?
Yeah.
Because he's always here, or if he misses the stream, he's back on the next one, right? And so I actually emailed him just to check in on him. And he told me, yeah, he had a bug of some sort, really kicked his ass, and then his next question to me is, when's the next live stream? Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I told him tomorrow, brother. Tomorrow. It's happening tomorrow. It's already up. But once again, a lot of you all are saying I'm not getting notified. Even if you haven't been unsubbed, you might want to check that notification bell, because for the streams, it's a little, if you want to get on while I'm streaming, I know when I go to streams, I'll watch them either late or while they're happening, but they're always a little more enjoyable when I know this is happening right this second. I just prefer that. And I think most streams get most of their views from that as well, right? Okay, so we've talked about the songwriting comparison, and of course, Ozzy supplying melody. Now that's interesting. A lead singer who supplies melody, even approach to words and everything. He might even rearrange the words to fit his kind of rhythm, because he would often give the rhythm and the melody of the thing, and it works brilliantly. Absolutely freaking brilliantly. Because if I were to compare these two bands on musicianship alone, I would have to give the nod to Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin having the better virtuoso musicians. And yet here we have Black Sabbath toeing the line with them. All right. So, yeah, babe.
Natalie Carly of Savaca says, Michael, you're definitely in rock and roll garb tonight. The black shirt is great.
Yeah, caught that, did you? Yep, I wore black in honor of Black Sabbath, the darkness of the tones and everything else, right?
Yep,
you caught that, right? There's always a method to my madness, folks. So how would I rank them? And then I'm going to start looking for, so now would be a good time, even if you put in a ranking before, Give me some rankings. How you would rank these three bands? Who's number three? Who's number two? Who's number one? All right. Here's my assessment, and then I want to read what you guys have to think. This is neither right or wrong. This is an opinion, folks. All right. In the number three position, I have to give it to Black Sabbath. Okay. For the reasons that I mentioned, and I meant all the good things that I said about them. But I also have to be in the mood for Sabbath a little more than I have to be in the mood for Led Zeppelin. I'll turn Led Zeppelin on right after I listen to a early Beatle album, right? They're just so accessible to me. But with Black Sabbath, I have to be in a bit of a mood because there is um, there is a feel to their music, and there is a darkness to it. There is a darkness, even though it's not evil darkness, right? And it's definitely on hinge. But when I am in the mood for Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple ain't gonna cut it for me that day. All right. Because nobody does it quite like Black Sabbath the way they do heavy metal. Or if you prefer uh, heavy rock, right? So that would be my number three guess. And of course, no, Deep Purple would be number two.
Oh,
All right.
James Redding agrees.
Only because, oh, good. I'm going to get right to James's comment here. Only because of everything I've talked about Led Zeppelin. Blackmore, like I said, a fingernail's difference, but width difference between him and Page as far as ability to play guitar, right? You've got I think they outclass Purple gets outclassed. Anybody gets outclassed by John Bonham, in my by my point of view, right? So they're not going to bear up under there. But remember what I said about Ian Pace. He's a fantastic freaking drummer, being my top 10, and one of my favorite drummers too. I like his approach. All right. And bass player, no, they're not going to quite do it, but you got John Lord, right? And Ian Gillan's not quite the vocalist of a younger Robert Plant, but then you get into what is it when he start four where his voice starts to suffer just a bit, but really in later albums where he's having a harder time. Gillan kept the more pristine sound, but despite all of that, despite the fact that both bands have guitar gods, and despite the fact that only Deep Purple has the greatest keyboardists amongst any of the musicians we've mentioned tonight, whether they play a little keyboard on the side or not, I don't give a damn. John Lord is my favorite keyboardist of all time. All right. So even with that, I've got to still put them at number two because of everything that I've mentioned about Led Zeppelin. And despite their dubious startings with the album, right? So that gets me here. I'll just show you what I've got from Led Zeppelin real quick. I don't want to go beyond. I've also got albums here by band members and um, bands that are connected to Led Zeppelin, right? But this is the one. This is when Beatles being my number one.
Oh my
I saw that.
Oh, Natalie, Carly.
$5. Thank you, Natalie. Always a great show. We do it for you guys, folks. Now, I was going to say, being the Beatles being my number one band, you'd think I'd be up on my Beatles albums and everything. I've got quite a few, but I still got a few early Beatles albums I got to get by them. One is really needs to be as their first masterpiece. I still haven't gotten A Hard Day's Night. So I've got Help, but it's the American version. I still need the British version. I need Beatles for Sale. Take my time. A Hard Day's Night, and then their first two albums, right? I've still got to get those. But I was in a big Led Zeppelin mood, especially when the channel went over. Of course, I covered the Beatles, but I covered a ton of Zeppelin, didn't I? So I got this from one of Patrick's options, Led Zeppelin 1. I, of course, have Led Zeppelin 2. Not only do I have Led Zeppelin 2, but this is also the one with the alternative cover on it. All right, I showed that in a previous video, so I won't go into that. I don't want to bore you guys, but it's kind of a negative photograph of this done in blues and purples or whatever. Anyway, it's I dig it. I like the alternative covers. Yeah, artwork is important to me. I have, of course, Led Zeppelin 3. All right, got that. And many of these are German pressings, right? With the exception of Led Zeppelin 1, all of these are new repressings, German pressings and everything. Haven't gotten down to getting a, first release or anything yet. Well, it's down the line. Of course, I've got Led Zeppelin 4, or Untitled, or Zoso, whatever you want to call it. And of course, I've shared in the past with this one that one of the things I really liked about it, besides the remaster and all of that, was the fact that the vinyl came clear. Isn't that wonderful? Special album, right? Once again, a German pressing. Isn't that wonderful? I love that. I will never buy vinyl for it being colored. But if it is colored and the price is decent, and especially for this album, I thought that was great because now I can go and look for other versions of this particular album, right? So, and this one I got rather early, collecting Led Zeppelin. Of course, I've got Houses of the Holy. I have the strip inside, right? Uh, Probably their greatest produced album, the glossiest of all Led Zeppelin albums, in my opinion, right? And late in the game, but got it nevertheless. Man, always costs a little bit more. Double album, Physical Graffiti, I got, right? And one of my favorite Led Zeppelin albums, I think a very underrated album, Presence, right? I've got my little Presence statue up there, right? Uh, and of course, In Through the Outdoor, not one of my favorite of the Led Zeppelin albums, but there is no such thing as Led Zeppelin, a bad Led Zeppelin album. They're all worth. I still listen to it all the time. And Coda, all right, and this is a used copy, early release copy. All right, so I've got that. Of course, I also got this from an auction. It's got a little scar here. I don't worry about that. But their live album, the wonderful live album that was accompanying their movie, and I've got Led Zeppelin, a couple of Led Zeppelin bootlegs. This one's the live in Dallas. Yeah, this is the live in Dallas, and this is them at the Fillmore West. Gotta listen to this. All right. So that pretty much concludes. I'm a little bit more of a completist. And if you think about it, with the channel over the years, and how I've said the um, how I made my original band list. If you remember, I had my Mount Rock Olympus band list. We still have it. It's just that it's evolved from my original list, folks. My original list had 13 bands that shall rule Mount Rock Olympus, right? Top three bands representing the top three brothers of the Grecian gods, right? The Beatles were Zeus, Led Zeppelin's Poseidon, and Deep Purple's number three, right? They were Hades. But vying for fourth spot, if you kept in mind and was paying attention, you probably were not surprised by my ranking tonight because always pushing to get into fourth spot with Queen, yes, the Police was Deep Purple, right? And I always had Black Sabbath on my list originally, but it was down much further. So you probably, those of you who have been following me for any length of time, probably weren't too surprised by my choices tonight. Okay. But you've got to understand something, folks. My respect for all three of these bands is immense. I've gone to an effort. They think about it very early, and when you've got a small collection like I do, you're getting what you want. You're getting what is missing right off. Oh no, if you're going to get into vinyl, you better get these and these and these, you know. And these, obviously, all three bands are important to me. All right. Okay, so let's go on down here. I want to take a look and see if anybody else has any.
Oh my goodness, Ergus split Loudberg.
Oh my goodness.
With the super things.
Yeah, I was scrolling up and Kimberly started going crazy. She went crazy, right?
That is so, and he's got to go. So we'll be checking out that.
Dear Jam, thank you so much. He says a final deuce, right? The power of two, brother. Thank you so much. And by the way, I am just as appreciative of this $2 as I am of what James gave earlier. All right. You know, people give what they can, you know, or if they're precluded to do so, you know. I always try to present you guys with something that is worth your support, right? First of all, present you with information that you'll find entertaining just to get the support of the viewers. And then to go and do a little extra digging, try to look at the subject from a kind of different angle, you know, comparing these bands, their songwriting abilities, you know, their musicianship, their actual discography, right? And their place in history in general and all of that. Couple of polls going. As a matter of fact, there was two other polls that I had up today. Well, within the last, I guess these are like within the last 24, 36 hours, right? I'm pretty sure. Where were they? Yeah, I had them all tucked away for you fine folks. Yeah. Good, good. All right. So I had a poll that was leading up to, of course, leading up to this stream. I gave you all a chance to vote on Black Sabbath's 8 albums with Ozzy, right? I gave you, first of all, in part one, their last 4 albums, and out of that group, the ones that came to the fore was Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and Sabotage. Uh, Technical Ecstasy, and what was the other one? I'm just having a brain fart on their other one there. Why can't I think of it? Anyway, didn't do so well. And then I did their first 4 albums as a part two. And it was, I got to tell you, it was close. I had to do a switch off or a dead heat. And I kept it on only for 1 hour because 2 Black Sabbath songs were tied. Of course, our albums were tied. And that was, I believe that was Master of Reality and Black Sabbath was tied. And so I did okay, you got an hour to vote. And Black Sabbath finally took it, but not by a whole lot. All right, so the final 4 that you could vote on were Sabotage, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Paranoid, and Black Sabbath. In last place was Sabotage. And I know that's going to piss the hell out of a lot of you because I get a lot of comments going, what's the problem with Sabotage? The only problem that I can think of with Sabotage is, first of all, it's a great album, right? But if I was going to be perfectly honest with you guys, the big problem with Sabotage is the album cover. Now that doesn't look bad, you know, as far as a rear end picture and all that. Look at Bill Ward there with those red pants, right? And then you look at him in the all of a sudden he's become pregnant. What the hell is going on there? I never understood that. So when I saw that photo when it first came out, I wasn't in a real exciting mood to go out and get it. So it's not one of my favorite album covers ever, right? But it's a damn good album. All right. So it came in last place in 19%. All right, was Black Sabbath, third place, but only beat out by 1% by Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, who took it with 20% as your favorite, second favorite Black Sabbath album with Paranoid burying everybody. Well, in this, and this is them against their very best albums. It took 52% of the vote. All right. And then I asked you which Deep Purple albums by Deep Purple's first four lineups or marks is your favorite. And of course, I had Shades of Deep Purple, Mark 1, Machine Head, Mark 2, Burn, Mark 3, Come Taste the Band, Mark 4. In last place, tied for last place, Come Taste the Band and Shades of Deep Purple. Come Taste the Band's better than that. And Shades of Deep Purple's fine. It's got Hush, right? But Come Taste the Band's much better than that. So I don't know. With 13% of the vote, in second place was Burn, and of course Machine Head at 79%. And that's no surprise. I knew Machine Head would take it. But at the time, I got to tell you, I loved Machine Head. But when Burn first came out, at the time, as a teenager, I actually thought they had, this is an even better lineup. You know, as I grew and listened and saw where they were going with this lineup and what it, I don't want to say devolved into, it should say evolved, because Tommy Bolin was nobody's fool, one of my favorite guitarists. And Come Taste the Band's fine, right? But you, like millions of others, decided to vote on Deep Purple Mark II, and especially their big mega hit, Machine Head, right? So, yeah, okay, I got all of that. Let's get back to your comments here. Make sure. I just wanted to kind of read off
I
that.
had one from Joseph Blue.
What's that?
Joseph Blue, he says, it's a comment unrelated to the string. But he says, Michael, you got me to listen to the first two Clatu albums today. Love some tracks, not all tracks. I just want to get that one out there.
First two? Is that what you've listened to, Joseph? Okay, so here's the key. Joseph, are you a Beatle fan? Okay, because Clatu, although clearly is, see, the Beatles had a period where they were psychedelic, and then they became unpsychedelic practically overnight, as fast as they became psychedelic. Clatu was a band that, by three individuals, you know, you had D. Long, Chuck, John Wallace, Chuck, and Terry Draper, who just sadly passed away, and a friend of mine. I had met him, I had interviewed him right here on the channel. A copy of that interview is on my members only video. There's a shorter video that does highlights of that interview, and then a 40-minute interview that Rachel, by her good graces, she invited me along. That's how I met him. Good man. So here's the deal with them. You got to understand, they never came out of psychedelia. They started in psychedelia. They and yes, the Beatles were part of it. So when you listen to them, try to listen to them with that in mind, and then also understand their sense of humor. I've called them this might help you, Joseph. I've called them the Gilbert and Sullivan of rock. All right. First of all, there's a suspension of disbelief, as with all psychedelia, and farcicity in their lyrics. I mean, you got to understand, they had lyrics like, I'll be the only man who'll ever get to hell and come back alive, Sir Rugglesby. And part of the vocals, I bet you want to be Sir Rugglesby. I mean, he sounds just like that, right? That's the lead vocals. So you're going, hey, man, we're talking about Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, and now listen to what Michael's singing. All right. But it's almost like a portion of when the Beatles would do silly voices. You know my name, look up my number, right? You've got, you know my name, you know, and then all of a sudden you got John screaming it, and they've got all kinds of silly little voices going along, and that's where they came from, right? Now they have, on that first album, you have Sub Rosa Subway, that was a hit, right? It sounds like a hit, but then you also have Dr. Marvello on there, who sounds like a psychedelic George Harrison song. So you got to put your mind into a frame when you listen to them. But I'm so glad that you're listening to them, Joseph. Also listen to Their third best album would be probably their third album, Sir Army Suit. Some of their best stuff there, Routine Day, uh, Mr. Manson, whose lyrics are written backwards on the sheet. You have to put it up to a mirror to read it, right? I mean, they listen, man. This band doesn't get enough credit, and in my life, they're one of the big ones. They were on Mount Rock Olympus. They held the number 13 position. You guys voted them off, but they were my 13th band that I would. That's how much they impressed me. And if you don't get them the first time, put them on again, Joseph. They might be a bit of an acquired taste, but always so melodic. Their instruments were fantastic, very British sounding for a Canadian band, you know, and their humor and their seriousness. I've often mentioned their fourth and maybe weakest album, not as far as songs, but as far as being a cohesive album by the actual band. There's a long history to this. Comes from Endangered Species, their fourth album, and they do this song "Howl at the Moon." All I can say is when boy werewolf meets girl vampire better watch her ass. That's all I can say. Because before you know it, you're gonna howl at the moon and you're gonna know that something is wrong. Because she had me in her spell. And I knew it wouldn't be too long before I'd end up right here in this prison cell. So obviously they've had a major influence on me. I can remember lyrics by them and everything. I love them. They're absolutely awesome. So thanks for bringing that up, Kimberly. Let's see, who else do we have here? I did James Redding. I did like some of Frank Sinatra and Andy Williams. I love them at their best. Yeah, I love the crooners. I love crooners from the 50s. They're right down my alley. All right. They're not my favorite genre, but they're one of the genres in music that I love. I've shouted Frank Sinatra's praises on this channel all over. It's been a while. His secret was coming down on the note. I did it my way. Dive bomber voice, messing with the tone to resolve. You know, isn't that what a 1-4-5 progression goes? You climb to the fifth, go down to the fourth, resolve on the first, right? He does it all in one note. My way, you know. Oh, love him. Velvetly smooth, you know. And the man who is the only other person I'm aware of that can be credited with creating the first concept album, with some of his cocktail, for lovers in the night albums. He would set a mood, and the songs he would choose were to be listened to as an album, right? Same thing that Rubber Soul was for the Beatles, only the Rubber Soul was the first major selling item like that, and the very first in rock and roll to do it. It is rock's first freaking masterpiece and true album. And damn, what the hell are they going to do this year? What do you guys feel about that? Right? Are you that excited about getting anthology with even an extra disc included? Right? I mean, it is its 30th anniversary. Never mind the fact that it's the 60th freaking anniversary to a Rubber Soul, and there's been not a word that we're going to finally get it. They've already been disservicing the album by doing some of, remastering some of the songs so they can put out another non-event, the Red and Blue albums, right? So you've got that coming out. And are they going to pull that crap again? Is that what we're going to be looking at this fall? I've been watching this. Every 2 or 3 days, I'm sure, surely they're going to go ahead, just moving. Anthology's coming next year. No, today, this Christmas, we're going to get Rubber Soul. Damn it, we better get Rubber Soul. I'm not going to be a happy camper. Expect a lot of rant videos come around fall, folks, if that isn't what we're going to get. Because if we get this anthology thing and what they did with the red and blue and how they've been packaging their song, encouraging listening to individual songs over the album experiences, giving away part of their legacy, and whoever's making those damn decisions at Apple better damn well stop it right now, as far as I'm concerned. Give us what we damn well want. Anyway, all right. Let's see. Just Master of Reality was the best. Yeah, that was my first. That was the first Black Sabbath album that I listened to. I went, okay, they've grown up. Okay, had me with the cough, you know, and Sweet Leaf right off the bat. It's hard to pick between Master and Four because they both on these two albums more than any of their other discography with Ozzy, they have a lot of light and heavy touches, right? And I love, with the exception of Planet Caravan before, all of these are on that level. Maybe I'd still pick that one over all of these, but their stuff, they're more ballad oriented stuff, instrumental stuff, offerings things. This developed them. They're now into high tech Sabbath, and they were still getting completely obliterated, just like Led Zeppelin. And for the most part, Deep Purple were in and out of the critics' toilet all the time, depending on what album, until they got to Machine Head, right? What's that?
Oh, I was just saying that we were removing a lot of trolls just recently here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but everybody's on the ball.
Okay.
Yep.
Did we get a couple of bandits in the talk?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but they've been removed.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, they were removed?
Yeah, we removed them.
Okay, good. Do you recall the name?
Oh, there's let's see. Blue Ranch. Oh, Gianni, Brandon, Baby, Pro Anno. Weird name. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we know who this is.
Yeah, Divine Dragons was saying he kind of knows too.
Yeah. Well, all I can say, and I'm not going to bring up who this is, this troll. There's about three of them, but there's one main.
Oh, no,
there's one main worm. There's one main worm. You're not going to get a shout out, brother. All right. You're not going to get your name mentioned here like you do in other places. And you're not going to get past the tribal marshals. Okay? They're going to kick your ass out of here every time. You're not going to mess this up. Dude, grow up. And put take that 3x5 poster of me, walking on the beach down from your bedroom wall and put Bobby Sherman back up there. Okay? All right? Because, you don't have a place here. All right? We're looking for good, positive vibes here. I'm sorry if I, twisted your titties a little bit too much, brother, but blah. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, to the tribe and to all of my wonderful grand marshals out there.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody you see with the wrenches, people I've got to know. Dr. Rick, hey, it's good to see you. James Redding.
He's
okay.
He's been,
Rockin' Robin Bird, newly deputized. She's our brand new marshal, right? We have Joseph Blue. Oh yeah, you know what, Joseph? You need to come in early. I'll tap you up. All right. I'll make you a moderator as well. James Redding's in. Deuces Wild. Oh my goodness, look at all of you. Natalie Carley of Sovoka. Is that how you say it? Natalie, thank you so much. You're wonderful. You know what? Our female viewership is increasing on this channel. I think my first year was 99.9 male. So we've increased our female viewership dramatically. Yeah, baby.
Oh, Divining Dragon says, I will be ranting over not getting Rubber Soul Super Deluxe.
Me too.
I know that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that has traditionally been my favorite album by them. I like it. I pick it over Revolver only because of this. it's the last album that has John Lennon slightly dominating Paul. In the very next album, Revolver, you have Paul slightly dominating John, and then he would go on to become more prolific, right? And these two albums are them perfect. And you have these two albums and the White Album. You've got John and Paul writing on those three albums, 4 LPs, because the White Album is a double album. You've got them writing at about 50-50. Okay, when the slightly favoring of Revolver and the slightly favoring of McCartney on Revolver versus John on Rubber Soul, that kind of cancels each other out. And by my count, they both have 31 cuts if you include "Can You Take Me Back Where I Came From," right? If you include that track, it's just a little ditty, but it is a composition penned by Paul McCartney. Because other than that, you'd say, well, it's 31 cuts. Well, it's 31 cuts, not 31 songs each, but each of them, with the exception of one Ringo cut, 4 Harrison's cut, it's split right down the middle with John coming out one song ahead, but then "Can You Take Me Back Where I Come From" evens that out. So I like it when John and Paul are tempered by each other. That doesn't mean that Paul unleashed on Abbey Road and some say Sgt. Pepper, and even to a degree Magical Mystery Tour, is a bit much or is exactly what they want. And some people say, well, he couldn't get a song in edgewise early because John was writing at such a manic pace. I like it when they slow each other down and kind of, to me, that's my favorite songwriting duo. And they were a duo, even if Paul wrote 98% of the song and John just wrote a word here. Vera, Chuck, and Dave. All right. That came from John Lennon. That wasn't in the original song. But all the rest of it's Paul's ditty, right? And I love the fact that John would later on say, well, Paul writes granny music, right? Well, that's a granny song, and yet John went in and dipped into the writing of that song with the addition of there, and countering. He was always good. Life is very short, and there's no time for fussing and fight. And then the man, he would do the counter sense. She's leaving home, right? What did we do that was wrong, or whatever the lyrics are. He would provide the counter viewpoint within a song. That's brilliant. And the fact that even when they did write 100% on their own, they were writing in competition because, damn it, Paul's going to write another one. He gets the single. I don't want that, right? That's what made them great. Competition, baby. Competition and love and not letting egos get checked in the way. All right, folks, we've been going for well over 2 hours. I'm going to shut it down now. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up for the stream. If you're seeing this later, give it a thumbs up. That helps. That'll get it seen. We have 73 thumbs up right now. We get another, what is that, 27? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I are good at math. Thumbs ups from you folks, even if you're watching this later. That'll give the stream a bigger bump up, and people will see it later. You guys made this stream so wonderful. I can't even begin to tell you. It's good to see that everybody seems to be in good order. So many of you out there have had James Redding, Dr. Rick, James, aka Storm Cop. I know that Caitlin, I don't see Caitlin out there. Has Caitlin been in today? No?
Not tonight.
Okay, not tonight. But she's gone through with family and her own health issues. You've seen me go through, I had to go through surgery while I was first starting this channel, and shooting videos and being held off from surgery for half a year sucked. And then, of course, Kimberly experienced a medical emergency. She had a heart attack, and the channel had to take second place with that. You guys saw me through it. And I'm so sorry that if any of you are experiencing tough times. Novus, Nick, it's good to see you out there. Good evening. Home from work. Hope everyone is well. I hope you catch up on it on replay, Nick. I was looking for panel members. I'm glad I caught that at the last bit. Nick joins us over on Royce in the House, and of course, always has very astute things to say regarding whatever topic we talk about. And it's always good to see friends and people that I consider to be my friends in the gallery as well. Not that each and every one of you aren't. I've got to know so many of you. Yeah, your personalities are coming out. I'm starting to catch that, and when Kimberly and I tell you that we care for you, we do, and all we can do is offer prayers and good graces to each and every one of you. I believe in the power of prayer. If you don't worry about it. Me saying prayers and good thoughts is at least good vibes, and that can't hurt anyone, right? But I do believe in that, and I wish the very best for you. Life is hard, and a lot of us are getting older. I'll bet you I'll be turning 30 any day now. But yeah, and as you get older, you know, uh, it's a natural gravitic thing that happens, right? But I'm a firm believer in this, and until I meet something that stops me from believing in this, is energy, um, what you have to offer, a sense of joy comes from never letting go of that. For me, it was that 9-year old in me, where there was still wonder in the world. I believed in magic. I believed in heroes, and I believed in the good graciousness of the world and the better nature of human beings. As you grow older, I didn't say old, but as you grow older, you come to realize that yeah, an ace is an ace, but not always an ace, and you got to watch what's up some people's sleeves because there's some real bastards out there, and there are some real bastards that can take you down as far as illness and everything like that. We still haven't got that figured out. So I can only wish the very best for each and every one of you. You have done so much for me and Kimberly. Kimberly will now spend the next half hour telling me what I missed, like she does all the time, in the peanut
Oh
gallery.
my goodness.
And we love you,
Joseph,
each and every one.
you would-
Oh, Joseph, thank you.
Oh,
In with one more power of the two. Brother, thanks to both of you. And thank you, Joseph. And I hope I helped you
Oh, that's so
approaching
nice.
those albums. For example, if you listen to their second album by Clatu, one of the songs is called Polizania. Polizania, right? Sounds kind of, yeah, it's kind of a song mimicking this planet's national theme, right? I asked Terry Draper about that. I go, the way you hold up, and it's Polizania or Ania, right? Polizania is this fictional government on another planet, and they go, Polizania, the brave, strong, and true, right? When you get to that point, I asked Terry about this, and he admitted it. I said, come on, you held that Paul a little bit longer as a Beatle joke, didn't you? And he says, yeah. All right. So there's what your $2 got you, Joseph. I always try to deliver, folks. All right. Thanks for making this stream so special. These last 3 streams have just been wonderful, really. And we're starting to get our grooves. All right. Okay, folks. I'm Michael Noland. Tonight has been the Tribal Forum, but the channel is called Michael Noland, The Bottom Line, but the bottom line only as I see it. Oh my goodness. Ben's in with a final 2 also. Oh my goodness. Black Sabbath show next week. I'll be watching. Yes. Actually, I think we're going to do When is that? That's not this coming Saturday? That's the following Saturday, isn't it, Ben? Because one of you brought that up, and yeah, of course, we'll do a view around Black Sabbath final show. I won't be able to see. I'm not paying for that, but some of you are. So please.
Just came in with
One more. Oh, Gear Jam, thank you so much. You guys have been terrific. We've gotten enough twos to make quite a bit tonight. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I was planning on doing a Black Sabbath oriented show. Oh, Rock and Robert with another three. Boy, so prolific. Thank you, darling. I appreciate it. You know, we are going to do that. And we are going to talk more about Led Zeppelin, but we'll just not every single stream. But I want to approach Led Zeppelin like it's never been approached on by my channel and everything, and in a way I wanted to cover them. But Black Sabbath fits into that scheme. Deep Purple will be in that as well, and we may even have some more to say about Uriah Heep as we go on further to discuss what goes, and then of course from there we will branch out. Thank you, each and every one of you. Again, I'm Michael Noland. This is the bottom line, but the bottom line, as I see it, folks, not as you see it. It's what you guys said in the comments. It's what you will be saying if you watch this later. That really counts. That's the bottom line, because that's where you find that this thing we call the bottom line, that's the tribe, right?
Yes.
That's the tribal consent. All right, folks, I love you. And tonight's Thursday. We'll see you on Sunday and hopefully expect a video in between then. All right. Night, folks.
What happened? Did somebody knock out my